Where am I going with this? Hello, all of you little demons. Jules here for WhatCulture.com, back again with another episode of the awesomely named and awfully hosted Choose Your Own Adventure, the weekly medieval-themed format where I, the Crown Jewels of WhatCulture.com, take a list chosen by you. Yes, you, the person who said, oh, I don't see any medieval stuff in this anymore. Yeah, that was the whole point of this show. Do you not remember? The first couple of episodes, we did have it, and then I moved home here back to Wales, and then it was like, oh, we didn't have the set stuff, so we had to make do with it. That's the running joke. I'm pretty sure that we're all in on this by now, but some people weren't, so I just thought I'd clarify. We all good? We're all good, brother. Kiss on the top of the head for you. Mwah. Yes, you get to decide what list I dole out to you each and every week. And this week we have none other to thank than Ashix V for their suggestion of video game DLC that ruined the base game. Now, this is the thing. I personally love a bit of DLC from time to time.
Jules.
What's that, Si?
This isn't going to be like the time we went to the pub and you went up to the bar to ask for DLC and nobody knew what you meant, is it?
It doesn't stand for double lager and chips?
No, it stands for downloadable content. I feel like you should probably know that by now.
Yeah, well, I guess that's pretty good sometimes too as well. But alas, not all DLC is created equal, and in some unfortunate instances, it even ends up having a detrimental effect on the game overall. And that's what we're here to talk about today, the times that you ponied up the dough only to be treated like a right mare. So let's have a chat about them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 times DLC ruined the base game. And you know the drill by now. Pop your suggestions for next week's episode down in the comments section below. And why not make it medieval themed just so we can appease everyone else? Anyway, let's get on with the list. Number 8, the Catwoman Story Pack, Batman Arkham City. Oh, what's this? Let's kick the list off with controversial fashion by talking about a beloved superhero in another beloved superhero's video game, and the DLC itself is actually quite good. So where am I going with this? Well, let me tell you. Now, in theory, getting to play as Catwoman for a few heist-centric sections peppered throughout the main campaign sounds hella fun. Yet they're so haphazardly shoehorned into the story that they actually end up derailing its otherwise meticulous pacing. Having control suddenly ripped away from Batman for Catwoman's glorified filler missions isn't nearly as exciting as Rocksteady clearly thinks it is, culminating in an infuriating Two-Face boss fight which ranks amongst the Arkham series' very worst. And that's saying something, because we all remember muscly Joker. Ooh, gross, ooh. Get away. Plus, if you're playing the Game of the Year or Return to Arkham versions of the game, the DLC is integrated directly into the story and there's no option to uninstall or skip it. And while it is admittedly fun to have the Let Batman Die option be available to you later on in the main quest, even though it's just a big fake out thing, it just isn't worth it to slog it all the way through here. It was perfect the way it was, and having these things shoehorned in, needled in, just doesn't feel quite right. Make it a standalone experience and make it just that, standalone. Number 7, The Missing Link, Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut. And here's another example of a DLC coming along and saying, hey, that's a really nice, well-paced story that you've got there. Make some room. I'll sit in between you two. That's fine, isn't it? No, these chapters here are somebody dying in this chapter and me grieving it. I'll just sit here, shall I? Just sit right here, shall I? I'll sit on you if needs be. Why do we invite this guy? Deus Ex Human Revolution's The Missing Link DLC is a roughly 4-hour mini-campaign in which Adam Jensen is captured and temporarily stripped of all of his weapons and augmentations, a terrifying prospect for players who've spent hours and hours refining their build by this point. And while in the original release this DLC was an optional thing that players could jump into, here in the director's cut it is put into the main storyline with no way to skip it, meaning that you build your way up that hill you fought tooth and nail to upgrade Adam Jensen, and then all of a sudden Adam Jensen is completely underpowered and is a complete underperformer in the bedroom and out. Given that The Missing Link was originally released as an entirely standalone DLC, retroactively inserting it into the main game was a huge mistake on Eidos Montreal's part, ensuring that an otherwise remarkable director's cut, which thankfully remedied the original release's horrendous boss fights, became an abject chore to finish. Number 6, The Bloodsucker Pack, Saints Row the Third. Now, Saints Row the Third's Bloodsucker Pack actually adds in something incredibly cool. The ability to become a vampire and you will suck their blood of your enemies. I'm going to stop talking like that, that's stupid. You get to suck the blood of your enemies and it instantly regenerates all of your health. It's a pretty neat perk. The problem is, though, is that when you download this, it permanently replaces the neck snap function there. And admittedly, being able to regenerate your health at any time is great. The downside of this is it makes an already fairly soft game incredibly easy, like to the point where it's not even fun anymore. Fans complained vocally enough to developer Volition that they ended up removing the Bloodsucker pack from both the full package re-release and Saints Row the Third Remastered, evidently agreeing that it was too egregiously overpowered for its own good. And this is the thing, you're not exactly playing Saints Row and expecting it to be like Dark Souls level of challenge, but still, you'd want a bit of challenge, otherwise what is the point? There is no point, and we're just staring into the void, and I will gladly pass on that for as long as possible. Ooh, get it away. Ooh, get the void away, Si. Ooh. Number 5, The Battle of Forlì and Bonfire of the Vanities, Assassin's Creed 2. Hoo, Assassin's Creed 2 coming in thick and fast, baby! This time with 2 DLC packs. That was 4 that I ended up holding up just then. 2 DLC packs, which both were great, but both kinda sucked. Now, Battle of Forlì is just like a kind of dull addendum to the main game, offering up 6 rote missions of largely little interest, save for a brief sequence in which you get to pilot Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine. Bonfire of the Vanities, on the other hand, is the far more egregious of the 2 DLCs. A tedious and occasionally frustrating bore which requires players to assassinate 9 different lieutenants. Now, most of these assassination missions were just by the numbers. You just come in there, you bush a few guards in the face, you dive out of the windows onto a hay bale, you bush a few more guards in the face, then you go hidden blade, pistol, whatever other equipment that you've got, like a medieval Batman. It was great fun. Except the time where you didn't do any of that and it was a forced stealth mission. Oh, thank you? Thank you, said no one. Ooh. Together, these DLCs absolutely murder the game's pacing, especially with Bonfire of the Vanities coming right near the end of the story. And if you're unlucky enough to play Assassin's Creed 2 as part of the 2016 Ezio collection, well, they're also mandatory for beating the story. So cheers, thanks for 2 DLCs that were middling fun, with 1 supremely terrible mission that you made mandatory. Ooh, I love paying extra. Mandatory fun. Number 4, all the inventory packs, Dead Space 2. Now, the Steam version of Dead Space 2, which, let's face it, is a laugh riot if you replace the words laugh and riot with scare yourself silly simulator, is a good time on Steam. But there is just one problem, and it comes in the form of the many, many inventory packs that you can download that give you souped up power suits and incredible weaponry right from the off. And great though that might sound in theory, it rather undermines the point of a survival horror game to make the player completely capable from the get-go. And worse still, there's no easy way for players to disable the DLC in this version of the game. And while you're certainly free to just not use those items, why wouldn't you? They're right there, tantalizing, and they are just so much better than all the other stuff that you're lugging around. So yeah, if you choose not to use them, you're basically forcing scarcity on yourself. And that's a weird vibe for a game to strike. Now, resource management is a major part of this game, and this DLC totally works against that. Even just knowing that you've got these suits and weapons mere clicks away lessens the thrill of survival. And it really undermines the challenge of this game, because you could just be like, oh, look, I've just had my ass handed to me and then eaten by a necromorph 13 times in a row. Maybe I will get the super duper flooper suit and just go floop, floop, floop. It was a rare one. You could only get it in Deutschland. Number 3, Episode Pack Part 4, Azura's Wrath. Now, to be fair, this DLC is actually really, really good, but it does stumble over one teeny tiny hurdle, and that is that it's selling you the ending to the game. In one of the most all-time shambolic instances of developers carving a part of the game out and selling it back to players on, Azura's Wrath's core experience concludes on a cliffhanger which appears to be setting up the sequel. Except, roughly 2 months after release, Capcom released this paid episodic DLC which contained the final 4 chapters of the game, effectively forcing players to fork over an extra £5 to see how things end. And again, the concluding chapters are some of the best content in the entire game, but the manner through which they were ransomed off to players who were by this point heavily invested in the payoff was overwhelmingly gross. Now, in all fairness, it has been suggested that the developers of this game actually made this episodic content because they actually found out that it didn't sell very well, so they weren't going to probably get a sequel, so they just churned this out instead. But still, that speaks to a wider problem of the industry, that you maybe shouldn't be leading on a cliffhanger in the first place. Standalone game first, and then sequels come later. Okay, let's have self-contained narratives, please. Number 2, Burial at Sea, BioShock Infinite. Well, what's this? Jules gets to on BioShock Infinite. Ooh. don't mind if I do. This is the thing, just for the record, all right? Really did enjoy my time with this game. But if I'm being honest, and you and I, we operate on a level of honesty, it's at the bottom of the pack. It is. I'm sorry, it just is. It goes Bioshock 1, it goes Bioshock 2 Minerva's Den, which definitely is a standalone experience worthy of being praised, Bioshock 2, and then Bioshock Infinite down the very bottom. How am I wrong? How am I wrong? How am I wrong? Anyway, back to the actual point of this list. Let's talk about Burial at Sea, which was a roughly 4-hour mini-campaign that sees Infinite's main character Booker and Elizabeth transported to the underwater world of Rapture from the original Bioshock for an exercise in shameless fan service that really doesn't hold up on subsequent playthroughs. In fact, there's one bit that I truly hate above all else, and that is that Dr. Sushong, who's meant to be the most brilliant scientist in all of Rapture, apparently used the tears to look through at Bioshock Infinite and copied their designs. Copied their designs, not the other way around. Couldn't have a moment of originality. No. Always had to be there. Everyone has to point back to how good Bioshock Infinite is. It just huffs its own farts, this game. Anyway, by introducing numerous franchise retcons and undermining much of the established story and character work in both the original Bioshock and Infinite, Burial at Sea actually makes them both worse in retrospect. Were Burial at Sea a piece of non-canonical wish fulfillment and nothing else, it would probably be palatable enough, but given that Bioshock creator Ken Levine has confirmed it to be canon, it places an indelible stain on both Infinite and the original game, perhaps even killing the desire to return to either in the future. And number 1, Afterbirth Plus, The Binding of Isaac. Okay, I know that I've poked the bear many times in this list by going on a lot of rants about probably DLC that you enjoy. And I'm going to close it out by doing more of the same. But let's just be honest, friends, okay? Look, put the pitchforks down for a minute. I come to you with love. I love The Binding of Isaac. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But maybe, just maybe, this DLC pushes things over into the masochistic territory a little too much for majority of the player base to actually have fun with. Afterbirth not only adds a bevy of maddeningly difficult new enemies and bosses, but also severely nerfs items alongside powerful fan favourite character Azazel, ensuring that many players were left feeling that the game had become mean-spiritedly torturous. Some of these nerfs were finally addressed several years later with the game's Repentance DLC, which mercifully fine-tuned the game's overall balance while still maintaining a high degree of difficulty. And that's the thing, if you need another expansion pack / DLC to come along and fix the mistakes that were introduced by this one, then maybe those defenders of Afterbirth Plus, I'm just saying, come on guys, let's just admit it. Maybe you're wrong, and that's fine, that's okay, everyone makes mistakes. For the great many who expected Afterbirth and Afterbirth Plus to enhance the overall experience though, they instead made it only more miserable for long-time players. Needless to say, if you're coming back to The Binding of Isaac for the first time, Repentance is definitely the smart starting point if you in any way value your sanity. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 times the DLC ruined the game. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. And if you want to chat to me on the social medias, you can do so by following me over on Instagram, where it's at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Come check out all the Warhammer that I am painting up very slowly. So many goddamn Bretonians. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Of course you do. Of course you do. And if you want to chat to Sai as well, you can follow her over on her social medias over here as well. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. There is one expansion pack that is definitely worth trying to unlock every single day, my friend, because it will add great benefit to your life overall, and that is just being kind to yourself. Treat yourself well with love and respect, because we all deserve love, happiness, and success as human beings on this earth, okay? Don't let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You are a massive legend. I want you to go out there and smash your life goals today. I believe in you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.